have missed or things that I can't see. So Carla will be monitoring the chat and I will be answering questions towards the end of my presentation. Perfect. I'm gonna hold the screen here for another couple of seconds and then we're gonna get started. All right, let's do it. So who am I? Who is this person in front of you talking your ears off? So I am a clinically trained and licensed dental hygienist with 15 years of experience. I teach at NYU in the dental hygiene dental assisting program. I'm also the executive director of #LunchBag, which is a nonprofit organization geared to fighting food insecurity and illiteracy. So you see over here, I have my mini libraries that I have had built that are located on the streets of Brooklyn, as well as refrigerators that I also have located on the streets of Brooklyn. So that way, if anyone needs a good book or some food, they can walk up to these two things and take what they need at any time. I am also the associate manager for community oral health for the Colgate Bright Smiles, Bright Futures North America program. I have 75,000 things on my plate, but I love every single thing that I do. I also am a mom to a dog who's in this photo right here, who pays me absolutely no attention unless I'm taking her outside for a walk. And I am a proud board member of Brown Girl RDH. So many different hats, and hopefully I do them well, but even if I don't, I love them all. So Dental Hygiene Fit, Mind, Body, and Soul is designed for the clinical practice hygienist to continuously guide dental hygienists on career path longevity and satisfaction, right? Because those are two separate things. This webinar is designed to introduce the participant with the concepts of mental and physical health. You will gain knowledge on the basics of ergonomics, which you're going to touch upon just a little bit, mental fatigue, and tools to sustain a lengthy and satisfactory career. The course objectives that we will be talking about, and I have to say that the photos that I am using today are all lovely photos that have been gifted to me by some amazing hygienists all over the country. So I love using photos and relevance that are true to what's happening in real life. So you will see a bunch of amazing, beautiful humans throughout my presentation. Some of the course objectives we're going to talk about is the components of ergonomic practice. We're going to touch slightly upon the neutral working position, the scope for ergonomic practice, some risk factors, the prevention of mental and physical fatigue. We're going to review some of the MSDs, musculoskeletal disorders, and we talked a lot of them about them in part one. I'm just going to bring back some a little bit in this part. Some exercises and activities that can help reduce muscle fatigue, strengthen muscles, can also help reduce mental fatigue. So please feel free to take notes at any time. And like I said, again, Carla will be monitoring the chat so I can answer questions once I am complete. So let's talk about dental hygiene fit. And dental hygiene fit means all of those things, mind, body, and soul. In our scope of practice, body positioning is an essential component of proper periodontal instrumentation. If we are hunched over, we are looking a little crooked, right? We're damaging our body, we're damaging our longevity, and we're really not doing a service to a patient. Proper ergonomics include the positioning of the dental equipment, the clinician, and the patient, right? Also, what plays another role in making sure we keep our proper ergonomics and we keep ourselves healthy and safe is also making sure our instruments are nice and sharp, right? This topic encompasses ergonomics, mental and physical health, and all three of these components ensure career longevity and satisfaction. I really want to harp on the word satisfaction because we can do something, but if we're not satisfied with what we're doing, we're really not doing ourselves or our patients or the practice that we're in any service. So what's the scope of ergonomic dental hygiene? It includes all practices that make work safe, decrease strain and fatigue, eliminates hazards, and improve the work process affecting the health and well-being of clinician and patient. It focuses on making tasks comfortable and efficient for user by allowing equipment to fit the user, right? It's a Cinderella situation. We want to fit the glass slipper. It's meant for us, not for somebody else, right? It's not meant for our evil sisters. So we want to make sure that everything around us fits and conforms to the practice that we are currently performing. So the neutral working position, like I said, I'm gonna just touch upon this a little bit briefly. We have head, eyes, back, shoulders, elbow, forearms, wrists, hips, thighs, knees, feet, lions, tigers, bears, oh my, all of these things. We need to make sure that all of our body parts are in the neutral working position. Head, 0 to 15 degrees flexion. Eyes directed downward to prevent neck and eye strain. Also, eyes, loops, right? Loops helps us really maintain proper ergonomic position. Neutral working position works so much better if we have loops. Our back in neutral alignment with natural spine curvature, shoulders relaxed and parallel with hips on the floor, right? We don't want to have any shoulder earrings. Bring those shoulders down. Elbows are close to the body. Forearms are parallel with the floor. Wrists are in a straight line with the forearm. And I always tell people, if you bring your hand out forward, correct? This is not neutral. When your thumb and your pinky are in the same line, when they are aligned, that is a neutral wrist, okay? Your hips are slightly higher than your knees, your thighs, your full body weight distributed evenly on the seat, so you're not leaning to one side or leaning to the other. Your knees are slightly apart, and your feet are nicely flat on the floor with a nice wide base, okay? That these body parts and these positionings help you secure a neutral working position. So, identifying physical discomfort. When ergonomics are less than optimal, comfort, productivity, and workplace safety suffer, right? And if our body is suffering, shortly after, our mind kind of starts to suffer a little bit, right? I'm sorry? Did I hear somebody? Okay, I'll continue. Ergonomic risk factors can lead to discomfort, pain, and a possibility of long-term disability. So some symptoms to help identify physical discomfort include a burning sensation, a stinging sensation, or sharp sensation, right? We never want to ignore any of these, nor do we want to ignore any like dull background aches, right? We want to make sure that we keep our body as healthy as possible, and we do not ignore any warning signs. At the first warning signs, we want to make sure that we start to do what we need to do to secure proper health, body health, mind health, all on the same track. So like I said, some of the MSDs that I'm gonna just quickly review, because this is a review, quickly talk about, because this is a review from part 1. Carpal tunnel syndrome is pretty much the most common, okay? Causes pain and numbness and tingling in the hand and the arm. Rotator cuff tendonitis usually occurs over time after repeated stress on the rotator cuff. A lot of clinicians that experience this, when you ask them, they will tell you they can't remember the last time they sharpened their instruments or had new instruments, okay? So that is also important, and that is the part of ergonomic practice that we want to talk about. We need to make things work for us. In addition to carpal tunnel and rotator cuff tendonitis, this is tenosynovitis, which is the inflammation of the tendon sheath where the muscle connects to the bone, and it's painful by repetitive use of the hands and the wrists. And what do we do as lovely clinicians? We practice repetitive motion, especially when we are in school. The amount of times we messed up our typodont by just pull stroke, pull stroke, pull stroke, push stroke, lateral pressure, all the things that we had to do, right? So we want to practice some exercises, which we will get into. Now let's talk about mental and physical health. It may be common to experience physical and mental discomfort as a dental professional, right? We are very, very keen at our craft, and we are going to get that calculus off no matter what. And sometimes that messes with our posture. And if you're anything like me, if I know I left a piece of calculus, it is going to haunt me. I'm going to have nightmares about that. I'm going to be thinking about ways of how I could have, what instrument I could have used, how I could have done that better. It's going to haunt me. And when that patient comes back, I'm going to take an x-ray and I'm going to be like, is that calculus still there? Is it me? So I know I'm not the only one, because we hygienists, we are type A's all the way, okay? But the good news is that a few changes to your working routine, posture, instruments, sharp, new, necessary, or fitness regimen can do wonders for the body and can extend your careers by years of injury-free practice. Now, a morning jog, morning stretch routine can increase your endorphins, right? That's one way to start your workday. Another way, mentally preparing for the day, either before you leave the house, while you're in the car, or when you get to the office early when there isn't a lot of activity happening. Set your goal and intention for the day, right? Listen to music, whether it be jazz, hip hop, R&B, rock. You pick, you choose. Listen to something that's going to get you in a great mood to get you going for the day, okay? Doing any of these 4 things, and there are also others that you can do, will help you start your workday on a positive note. Mentally, if you are focused, ready, and prepared, you will have a better day, right? We want to start our day in a good note. Work-life balance. It's not all about work, right? We not Rihanna up in here. We have to have some time for us, for our family, for our friends, to do fun things. And life is amazing, especially if you're amazingly close with your coworkers, right? You guys can go out for happy hour after. So work-life balance is a state of equilibrium where a person equally prioritizes demands of their career with demands of their personal life. To help maintain a work-life balance, you have to manage your time, right? And as hygienists, who's better at managing time? We understand time management like nobody's business. My patient's at 2, you get seated at 1:59, right? We understand that. So we can absolutely do this for ourselves. Learn to say no when the need arises, right? Some of us are working 5-day work weeks, and that Saturday shift comes around and you're like, should I do this Saturday? Maybe. Do what? Learn to say no sometimes, right? You did a beautiful 5-day work week. Take some time for yourself. Take time for your family. Even if the time means you sit on the couch in your robe with some popcorn and watching TV or a movie, right? Evaluate your priorities at work and at home and try to shorten your to-do list. If you can delegate, delegate. If you can prioritize, prioritize, okay? And when you walk out of that office, detach. Work is work, home is home. Try not to bring that with you, right? That constant strain and pressure, and you're now just bringing that with you everywhere you go. It's gonna throw you off. And if mentally you don't feel good, physically it's gonna come out, right? So we wanna have a wonderful work-life balance. Identifying mental fatigue. So mental fatigue occurs when your brain goes into overdrive after being exposed to stress and anxiety for a prolonged period of time, right? As a result, a person may feel physically and mentally tired, lethargic, and then become unproductive. Mental exhaustion is usually not harmful and can be easily identified, prevented, and treated. Vacation to Hawaii, anyone? That's happening right now as we speak. Some of the warning signs of mental fatigue can include a headache, unmotivation, trouble sleeping, feeling of overwhelmness, easily irritable, feeling stressed and anxious, and becoming detached. When these things start to happen, you need to reassess, take a step back, and start to think about where you need to focus on, right? Do I need to focus on my home life? Do I need to focus on my personal life? Do I need to focus on my job life? What exactly do I need to focus on to help release some of these triggers? Okay. Journaling is something I'm gonna talk about in 2 seconds, is also very good to just start picking up a journal and just start writing. And whatever comes out, comes out. And by the time you finish, you would have probably identified a couple areas where you feel, you know, I can improve this, I can change this, I can do better, this is helping, this is not helping, okay? Take the time to assess yourself. We are one entity. If our mind and our mental status is starting to slowly lag, we're gonna feel it in our body. So we're gonna talk about three different types of activities that we can do to help us. You're gonna see this little depiction that I had from the last time, and I brought it back because these are really helpful, especially if you're working at chair side, right? You can stand with your feet hip width apart, place those hands behind your lower back, push hips forward, chest to the ceiling. It goes a stretch right there in between patients while you're waiting for your patient to finish that medical history that's only 1 page, but they're taking 35 minutes to do it. The next one is sitting upright with your back firmly pressed against the chair, having your arms behind you and raising your arms to the ceiling. Sitting on an operator chair is the next one with your feet firmly on the floor, folding at the waist. Start to lean, let your head hang heavy, or release. This is really good for releasing. You have D, which is the next one, sitting firmly with your feet on the floor, hands together, palms facing forward and pushing out. Get a nice little stretch in that back, that upper area, those rhomboids and lat areas. And then the last one's my favorite because it looks like I'm raising a roof, right? Making sure that while palms facing the ceiling, raise shoulders into your ears and just stretch it out. So these are, I would encourage you, you know, if you didn't do it the last time, or if this is your first time joining us, take a picture of this, post this in your operatory, put it in a closet, cabinet, door, in one of the drawers, and reference this anytime you need to, right? Mindfulness activities. So mindfulness activities honestly take 5 minutes. Some don't even take that long. You have mantras that you can say to yourself. Today is a great day. And with a daily mantra, you want to use the present tense. So is, not will be, is a great day, okay? Your affirmations you can also say, which mainly focuses on you. For example, I'm calm, I'm focused, and I can do all I set my mind to do. Another one is box breathing, which I actually do often because you can't really tell I'm doing it. Excuse me. So you inhale for a count of 4. Hold it for a count of 4. Exhale for a count of 4. rest for a count of 4. Box breathing allows you to just focus on your breathing. Everything else starts to fade away. And when you're ready to come back to yourself, you'll be able to handle things a little bit better. And my favorite is journaling. Repeat these as many times as you need to, right? And some physical activities for us who love being outdoors. Biking, hiking, running, daily yoga practice. Out of all of these things, you're not catching me hiking. I'm sorry, but not catching me hiking. But everything else I can and will do. So you get out there with your friends, get out there with your family, get out there with your children, get out there with yourself. Get out there and do what you need to do. So some reminders: always assume a neutral, balanced body position. Make the day count by starting with yourself. You first. Remember when in an airplane, what they do when they tell you the oxygen mask is gonna come down, what do they tell you? First, place it on yourself, then help others, right? You can't help anybody else if you haven't helped yourself. Or as old African proverb says, you can't pour from an empty cup, okay? And do not allow yourself to be consumed by tasks. Take everything one step at a time. Thank you guys so much. This is my email address. Please feel free to email me should you have any questions, comments, concerns. You want to continue this conversation, you want to open it up for new conversation. I am going to stop sharing my screen because Devin is going to talk to you guys, but I will be here. I will be around. I'm also going to be monitoring the chat now, taking a look to see if there's any questions I need to answer, but I am around. Thank you so much, guys.
Good job, Anaika. I think we did have a question in that chat box.
I'm perusing the chat box now. And I know a couple of people can't scan, so I'm taking notes of your names, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, our marketing team member posted a link in the chat box. So if you're watching us from a smartphone, you should be able to access that link and check into the webinar. Should I proceed, Anaika? What do you think?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So good evening once again, Anaika. That was an awesome job. I took down a bunch of notes. First of all, you have so many abbreviations after your name. It's crazy. Like pretty soon you're going to run out of space or have to get a second line there. Gosh, for me, I think, I really need to do a better job at stretching in the morning and taking a moment to just be a little more mindful and grateful for just the amazing opportunity we have every day. So really appreciate you kind of going through some of those things. It's always good to kind of reflect on. So my portion of the webinar this evening is called Fit, Function, and Fashion. Now, I'm going to be talking about how it pertains to frame selection when you are looking or shopping for a new pair of loops, okay? So a lot of times clinicians, when they're looking for loops, I feel like they're kind of stuck between this fashion and function route. And I always tell people fit and function over fashion. However, one thing I really like about Univet is that you kind of get the best of both worlds. So with that being said, let's get started. So quick review, we're going to go over some maintenance do's and don'ts, how to take care of your loops to make sure they last as long as possible, and some things you can do to kind of add some longevity to them. We're going to talk about cleaning materials, what you should be aware of, what you shouldn't use or consider using, and how you should consider using them. We're going to talk about fit, what to look for, how they function, and of course, because it's Univet made in Italy, we got to talk about fashion a little bit. Am I right? We're going to talk about Univet and why we're a great professional loop company for clinicians all over the world. And then I thought I'd close it off by just talking about some kind of loop hacks that I've learned about over the last couple of years. As I mentioned in the first webinar, I've worked for a couple of different loop companies. It's been an amazing journey, and I've picked up a little things here and there that I think might be helpful. So when we think about how to clean and take care of your loops, there's some general best practice or things that we should always keep in mind. And before I go through any of this, I just want to mention that kind of all of this is my personal opinion. It doesn't necessarily represent Univet. A lot of it you won't find in our manual. And if you have loops from another company, I certainly don't represent them. So this is just my preference. Take it with a grain of salt, okay? So first thing is always use a microfiber cleaning cloth and an anti-fog cloth. So they look like this. Okay, this gray one is our anti-fog cloth. Okay, if you don't have some of these, you can invest in Amazon. They're like $9, $10, $12 with shipping, or you can cut up an old used t-shirt and use these to clean and polish your loops. All right, we always want to spray our disinfectants onto these cloths and then wipe down the frame. Always spray it onto the cloth. Another thing I recommend, if possible, is to use barrier tape instead of disinfectants when possible, when it makes sense. For example, your overhead, your LED light, right? You can put a little piece of barrier tape around that. So if you find yourself reaching up and touching that often, you can just replace the barrier tape instead of constantly disinfecting that surface, which is close to a junction where the cable comes into the lamp head, right? And some of our disinfectants like Cavicide are quite corrosive, right? And they can eat away at pretty much anything over time. It's a very, very powerful, effective substance. So another thing we want to do is tune up our loops monthly, if not weekly. And what I mean by that is at the end of the week or the end of the month, check all of the moving parts on your frame, right? Are the hinges on the temple arms loose? Is your light where it attaches to the frame, is it loose? And just take a moment just to tighten them up. And I want to emphasize hand tighten only. Okay, we don't want to mechanically over tighten these areas because you can strip the threads or screws and cause irreversible damage to your frame that can't actually be fixed. So it's really important that, you know, our loops aren't loose, but at the same time, we're not over tightening these areas. So we always just want to hand tighten them with the tools that your manufacturer gives you. If anything breaks or comes to bonded, just call your Univet rep or your respective loop rep right away, just to see what the best thing to do is. I know everyone out there can't do this, but you need to own at least 2 pairs of loops. Okay, if you're a professional, a clinical professional, you owe it to your posture, your practice, and your patients to own at least 2 pairs of loops. So if something goes wrong with your set of loops, or you forget them at home, or they're at your other office, you're not working without them. We all know how important they are from an ergonomics standpoint, but also from a clinical care standpoint. So investing in a second pair just makes a lot of sense for most of us out there, especially if you work in different offices. And I would say proactively get your loop service. So one advantage of having 2 pairs of loops is that if one pair needs to be sent in for service, right, you have a backup, a good backup to use. Or if you don't have a backup pair of loops or a second pair of loops, maybe you can send your loops in while you're on vacation in Hawaii or wherever you may go on vacation. But I would recommend getting them serviced. It'll ensure that they last as long as possible. And any minor problems can probably be fixed before they become major problems. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So here are some don'ts, okay? Don't use tissue paper or any form of paper to clean your loops ever, okay? If you look at a piece of paper under a microscope or maybe even high-powered magnification, there's little tiny wood chips in there, okay? And these wood chips can cause abrasions and wear off coatings on your lenses and loops over time. So never use them. As I mentioned, use a microfiber and anti-fog cleaning cloth at all times for your lenses and your loops, period. Don't spray disinfectants directly onto the frame, okay? Now, again, this is just my opinion, okay? A lot of loops are water resistant, okay? Univet loops are waterproof. Still, all that being said, I highly recommend you spray these disinfectants onto your cleaning cloth. Now, if you're going to use Cavicide or like a towelette soap disinfectant, I would take your disinfectant, let's say this is your disinfectant wipe, I would put it inside your cleaning cloth and I would squeeze it and soak it in, right? So it absorbs into this, and then you can wipe down your lens. Once that dries, then use your anti-fog cloth to move that haze or film off the lens. And I would never submerge or rinse loops underwater. Like I said, Univet loops are waterproof. There's some other companies out there who say their loops are waterproof, but you don't want to get any water or moisture in the optics because they can dry on the inside of the lens and it can compromise your ability to see. You have to send them back to the manufacturer. They got to take them apart and clean them. Just don't do it. Okay, I would recommend using microfiber cleaning cloths over any method, especially rinsing or submerging underwater. Never over tighten. I mentioned that in one of the do's. Okay, only mechanically tighten. So just basically the max you can go with your hand before you're applying a lot of pressure. Okay, I can't tell you how many times I've seen people out there using dental adhesive composite to hold their loops in place, or maybe their frame breaks and they have a little that A2 bond or that OM1, that loop's hanging on by a dear thread, and they put some composite in there to hold the loop together. And while that may, hold you over for a month or two, in a lot of cases, it's eating away at the material, compromising the material. And when it gets sent back to the manufacturer, they have to spend a lot of time like getting that material off and polishing that surface. And sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes it causes permanent damage to the frame or the optic, and it can't be fixed. And so now you're stuck with a labor bill, all the time they put in, and then another investment to fix your loops. So that's why I mentioned the importance of owning 2 pairs of loops, calling your loop rep if something happens, and being proactive about, getting your loop serviced. And I think the biggest don't of all is being forced to work with broken loops or no loops at all while yours are being repaired. But we're dental professionals. We owe it to our patients and ourselves to do our best. And I think a big part of that, right, is having a great pair of loops, or 2 loops if you can at all times. So back in Italy, where all of our products are made, Univet did a study on surface disinfectant, and all 3 of these cleaning solutions have been approved for our loops. Okay. That being said, Cavicide is a crazy strong substance. And even though it's being recommended here on our loops, I still prefer hydrogen peroxide over everything. So you can take a little mister bottle, a little spray bottle, maybe like $1 or $2 on Amazon, put your hydrogen peroxide in there, and again, spray it on your cleaning cloth. That's going to do a great job. And if you use Cavicide, just be aware it's very, very corrosive. So I'd keep it away from the bond that bonds the optic into the frame right here, this glue. Okay. So I want to talk now about fit, okay? And what we as Univet loop consultants, right, people who meet with you and help you select frame and optics, what we look for when we fit you for a pair of loops. It goes far beyond how cool you look or how elegant you look with the frame on. I mean, that's obviously really important, but fit and function over fashion always, if possible. Now, the first thing that we want to look for when it comes to fit is at the carrier lens, which is this lens right here that protects your eye. Okay, this is called the carrier lens. We want that to cover your eye and the infraorbital region. So this region is everything from the bottom of your eyebrow around your eye socket and to the inside of your nose. Okay, so the carrier lens needs to cover all this, okay? And it needs to minimize this lower gap between your cheekbone and the carrier lens. Believe it or not, this area is pretty reasonable area for material to get projected out of the mouth and come up and hit you in the eye. Eye injuries are the 3rd most reported injury from dental professionals. It could be from a dull instrument breaking off, a piece of tooth, an explorer breaking. It could be from a lot of things. And most of the eye injuries from dental professionals happen in this lower gap. You can check out this PubMed study if you want, or just make sure you have a frame that fits really well with respect to these 2 bullets I've discussed. So moving on with the fit, okay, these might be a sign that your frame is too large, okay? So one sign that your frame might be too large is that when you're trying it on, you can slide a pen in between your temple and the side of the arm. Okay, that might be a sign it's too large. It's not a telltale sign, but it's something that we look for. Okay, the second thing is that the arms are bending in. Okay, this is at an acute angle, I believe, kind of like this, our cute friend here. Okay, we can see the arms bending in. It's a sign that the frame's too large for him or her. Another sign that the frame might be too large is after the nose pad's adjusted, right? It's still sliding down the bridge of your nose. Okay, for me, I have a lot of nose real estate here, so frames tend to not slide down my face. And when we do this, we should check this out, put our head down, right, without having loops on, because we're just checking for the frame and the fit, not so much the optics and how the weight's managed on the frame. So these are like major things to look out for if the frame's going to be too large. On the other side of the equation, right, we could have the frame being too small. Okay, so what does that look like, right? The bottom of the carrier lens, okay, rests on your cheekbones. Ladies out there, if you have really high cheekbones, you know what I'm talking about. A lot of these loop frames will press on here. We have several solutions that can help you with that. However, that's a sign that the frame might be too small or the wrong shape for your facial geometry. And another sign is like in this picture, that the arms are bending outwards, okay? This is a sign that the frame is too small, right? This is gonna put a lot of pressure on your face and cause some headaches. We also wanna keep in mind that there should be a gap here. We don't want the top of this frame like pressed firmly against your eyebrows. It's gonna cause headaches. It's also gonna allow heat to get trapped in the upper part of your frame and fog. So having a little gap here, right, not only ensures that the frame fits you better, but the heat has somewhere to escape and get out of the way so it doesn't fog up your carrier lens. And as I mentioned, yeah, when it's bending at that obtuse angle, right, it's gonna put some pressure on the side of your head here. It may be uncomfortable for some folks. And the last thing we wanna look for is that the temple tips completely go behind the ears. Okay, if we look at this picture, these are two examples of frames being too small. Now, almost all of our frames have adjustable temple tips. Okay, so that's another advantage of using a company like Univet or a great loop company out there, because they're gonna have temple tips that are flexible and adjustable. But if they're fixed, okay, this is a sign that your frame's too small. Maybe not the best selection for you. All right. So when we talk about function and ergonomics, I'm really talking about performance in terms of declination angle, okay? And if you remember maybe from some loop education you may have received in the past, declination angle is the angle that the loop is at, okay? And typically speaking, the steeper it is, the less you have to bend your head to look, okay? But there are variable factors that contribute to steep declination angle, okay? Variable factors meaning that these factors control the angle that the loop can be built at, okay? It's not a concrete number. It depends on everyone's facial anatomy, the geometry, and the manufacturing and design of the frame, which is really important, okay? The first variable factor that contributes to a steep declination angle is pupillary distance or inner pupillary distance. Now, the average pupillary distance, the distance from pupil to pupil, is 63 millimeters. Generally speaking, in a vacuum, this is a very important factor in determining steep declination angle, because when this frame bends in, if you have a narrower PD, right, it's gonna, where they put the loops is gonna come in contact with this metal part of the frame. Again, that's an important reason why a company like Univet builds their own frames, because we have a lot of control over the design and the PD variance that will maximize declination angle. The second variable factor that contributes to steep declination angle is called the B measurement. Okay, the B measurement is this vertical measurement in the carrier lens. Generally speaking, in a vacuum, all other things separate, the longer this lens, okay, the steeper we can angle the loop. Okay, not only will the loop be steeper, but you're going to have more room to look over the top, so you can talk to your patient, type your notes, peek out the hallway, tell a joke to your coworker. Okay, this B measurement is a very, very important factor, and it's not always going to be the sports frame. Sometimes, like this one frame I have on, tends to have an exceptional B measurement. I really, really like it for professional looking frames that need a steep declination angle. The third variable factor that contributes to a steep declination angle is your pupil height, okay? The pupil is that black dot on your eye, okay? And typically speaking, the higher your pupil is in the carrier lens in the frame, the steeper we can build your loop, okay? Something you also need to look for is that we like to have your eyebrow at the top of the frame or above, okay? So these are the three major variable factors that contribute to a steep declination angle. Now, you could have 2 or 3 components and still get a pretty steep angle, but ideally, right, we want to find a frame and a PD where all 3 of these are maximized. So I just want to go over a couple examples of some frames on some Univet folks out there. And before I show you these photos, I want to point out something. In all of the photos, you're going to see this tool. We call this the measuring bar, okay? We clip this measuring bar into the middle of the frame like this. And you can see that there's this piece of clear plastic with a black line on it. In the pictures I'm going to show you, the black line is covering the red line, and this measuring tool is centered on the frame. And what this does is it plumbs up the photo, okay, that we take to build your loops to ensure that we're getting proper measurements and we're getting that angle measurement as steep as possible. Now, when I say plumb, okay, what I mean by that is that the X, Y, and Z axes are all level, okay? So that helps us take and measure good photos. So if you're shopping for a pair of loops and you're like, okay, I'm gonna check the B measurement, I wanna make sure my pupil height is high, have one of your friends look at you, but it's really, really important that they are plumb and you're plumb, meaning that you both are very level, okay? Otherwise, you're gonna get bad information. So it's very important to use a tool like this. Okay, anyways, so these are some suboptimal frame choices for these 2 individuals, okay? First of all, the first thing we notice, right, is that white dot on their pupil is low in the B measurement in that carrier lens, right? Now, fortunately, you know, this frame has an exceptional B measurement. It's very, very long, and these individuals have a very wide PD. So it fulfills like 2 of the 3 variable categories, but the optical height or the pupil height is comparatively low as to some of these other pictures I'm going to show you. So this would be like not the best frame choice for these individuals when compared to some of our other frames. Okay, so this is a picture of the same individual, okay? On the left, we have our Technique frame, one of our most popular, successful, most ergonomic frames that we produce. And then on the right, we have our newly designed one frame, the frame I'm wearing right now. Both of these frames fit this individual very, very well, right? We have a lot of room below the pupil. It's high in both of the B measurements, and she has a relatively wide PD. So in this scenario, right, this clinician was able to have a lot of choice in terms of frame when it comes to an angle that was going to be best for her, if that makes sense. Here's another example, same person, okay? On the left, we have the one frame, on the right, the Technique frame, okay? Look at the eyebrow on the individual in the right photo. See how it's below the frame? Not the best frame choice, but again, the A measurement is really long and its PD is relatively wide. So that allows us to really angle that loop steep. However, again, the one frame on the left side, pupil height is very high. Okay, so we're going to be able to build this individual a very steep loop in either scenario. Here are a couple more examples, okay? This is Kristen, our new team member in Houston, San Antonio, Austin. Shout out, Kristen. If you're looking for a good pair of loops in South Texas, definitely give her a call. Okay, look how high her pupil height is. It's almost at that last horizontal laser etched line. Okay, that's a very good indication that this frame is going to be a good fit for her. Here's a couple other photos of some other clinicians, okay, who have high PD values in terms of vertical positioning. Okay, so just want to take a moment to talk about Univet and some of our frames. Okay, not only are frames beautifully designed and made for dental professionals, they're made in Italy. Okay, so there's some advantages to that for you as clinicians. The first is that our optics and frames and all the parts are made for you, dental professionals. We're not buying frames from third-party companies and drilling holes in the lenses and bonding good loops into them. We are building our frames to hold loops and hold up to these corrosive materials and last you for years, maybe even decades if you take care of them. Almost all of our frames have adjustable nose pads and temple arms. Okay, that gives us a lot of control over how they fit, how the weight of the optics are distributed, and essentially a lot of the variable factors can be managed with these adjustable features in our products. We use amazing materials, some of the finest materials we've ever known on Earth, like space grade nylon on our sports frame, aircraft grade aluminum, and carbon fiber and the engine coating used on Ferraris. I mean, how cool is that? There's no one else out there doing that. And that's just one reason why I love our products so much. I think in terms of ergonomics, one thing I like the most about a lot of our frames is that they have this panoscopic tilt built into the frame. So what that means is that the carrier lens, right, it's angled forward, okay, and that allows the loop to be bonded at a steeper angle. Okay, so this term panoscopic tilt is something that we have a lot of control over because we make everything ourselves from paper all the way through to production in Italy. So let me show you some frames. So this is our ash frame. Okay, it's been in circulation for it's been in circulation for probably the longest out of all the Univet products. Okay, it's got exceptional panoscopic tilt. It's very, very lightweight, and it's got the same carbon fiber that they use on the Ferrari body. In fact, our red and black model has the same red that's on the seat. But in terms of ergonomics, it's a great selection because of the panoscopic tilt. We recently relaunched this one frame. It's a beautiful frame. If you're looking at the coating of this frame thinking, this coating looks familiar, that's right. It's the same coating that's on your Ferrari engine. So that's where you've seen it before. It's probably familiar. Another thing I really like about this frame is that it has golden proportions, okay, the height and width built into the carrier lens. These golden proportion, this golden ratio, this golden proportion is seen in nature. It's in our human bodies, it's in trees and birds. It's a natural ratio. And because of that, this frame is very aesthetic for both male and females. This is our Techne frame. All right, second to the Ash, this one is probably the most popular frame out of all the Univet family members for a couple reasons. First of all, the B measurement on this is exceptionally long. Okay, that allows for a very steep declination angle and a lot of room for the user to look over the top, right? To look over the top and have a conversation with their patient or type in notes. Okay, it's also got a lot of splatter control because of the curvature of the frame. Now, for a loop geek like me, okay, one thing I really, really like about it is that the lenses are bolted into this piece of aircraft grade aluminum. Okay, so when you open up your frame, right, you develop wear patterns. But because the lenses are bolted into this piece of aluminum, right, when this nylon material flexes, the carrier lens does not. It's very stiff and rigid. Okay, and that's something that you need for sports frames. This is our Ida frame. This is one of our more fashionable frames, very, very popular in the coastal areas in Texas. One thing people like about it a lot is that it's got a really nice B measurement, right? And this is our newer looking cool frame. This is polished nylon, extremely lightweight, but strong and durable. And again, typically yielding very, very high vertical values for that pupil. As I mentioned earlier, this is our anti-fog cloth, okay? Now more than ever, right? PPE is obviously really important, and we can't be having our optics and carrier lenses fog up. This anti-fog cloth is good for up to 6 to 8 hours, and you can use it for up to 200 uses. It's a very, very good solution for about $20 US. So we're wrapping up the webinar here. I do want to go over the loop packs, but I just want to touch on some crazy deals that we're putting together for you. Wherever you're at in North America, okay, you can take advantage of these. First of all, we have a loop light and laser insert promotion. When you get that, you're getting online laser training from Dental Laser Integrations for only $99. Okay, this is a $700 or $800 course. It's about 16 or 17 hours of education, and you can take the classes whenever you want from wherever you want. So obviously, if you're looking to refresh your laser training or get laser certified, it's a no-brainer, right? If you need another pair of loops. We're also doing a loop and light combination for $800 off. That's an outstanding opportunity to get your second pair of loops or get started with your first pair. And if you just need laser training, head over to Dental Laser Integrations and come see Elaine at a course. Chances are, if it's in California, Texas, or New York, we'll be able to give you a high five. We might be there ourselves. Okay. We're going to close out the webinar with tips, tricks, and hacks. Some things I've learned over the years. Some of these I can't even take credit for. Okay, I don't remember who told me them, but I don't think I invented them by any means, so I'm not taking credit. But these are one of my little favorite hacks recently. Okay, I call these little guys nose pillows. They are just like a silicone sticker filled with air, and you stick them on your nose pad, and they add so much comfort to your loops. So if your loops are uncomfortable, text or call your Univet rep. Let them come by and see if they can make your frame more comfortable. They can bring you some of these nose pillows. Okay, gentlemen out there, if you're looking to relieve some weight on the ears, okay, of your frames, take your neck strap, put it on the ball of your head. Okay, and what that's going to do is two things. The first is that it's going to increase the angle of the loop. Okay, so you're going to increase your ergonomic declination angle, but it's also going to lift the temple arms completely off your ears. It's going to take a lot of pressure off. Now, ladies out there, don't worry. This will work for you too. Okay, what you want to do is maybe wear your hair up a little bit higher. And what will that do is allow you to put that neck strap above your bun. Okay, and that's going to lift this temple arm completely off your ear, and again, add a lot of declination angle. This picture is from Dr. Nada. Shout out Dr. Nada. She's just across the street from Central Park in New York City. She's got 2 pairs of Univet optics, and that's her with her new wireless headlights. So shout out to her. That's going to do it for the webinar, everyone. Thank you so much. Just want to mention, if you're an educator out there and you want Univet or Anaika to speak to you about ergonomics or our products, please let us know. And if you're just generally interested in more content from us, we want to hear from you. So at this point, thank you so much. Take a moment and scan this QR code. You have to complete this short quiz to obtain your CE. Do it now. It expires today, okay? Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Amazing. Thank you guys for coming. If it doesn't scan for you, just please let us know. Put it in the chat. We'll bring the screen back up. Devin, I think you, yeah, there we go.
Okay. Sorry about that.
That's okay. All right.
Hope I shared some good loop tips for the people out there.
Amazing. Yep. I'm a Univet. I'm a Univet lover. I am. For those of us who are on cell, we're gonna see if we can get the link for you. Just hold on tight, give us a second. But the rest of you, if you're able to scan, go on ahead and scan it. We just added the link to the quiz.
Let's see here. Some questions. Yep.
So check the chat. The link has been placed in the chat box, or you can scan. And once you are done, have a great evening, morning, afternoon, day, wherever you may be. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Yeah, thanks for hanging out with us, guys.
Thanks, Anaika. That was awesome.
You were awesome. I love how I have so many students. So many of my students came to hang out with us. So many of my graduated students too.
All right, we got a question from Carrie Weber. Carrie Weber has 2 pairs, but she wants to switch one to a 3.5. So Carrie, your best investment is to get a third pair of loops. Okay, by the time you take your optics, which I'm assuming are 2.5s, once you take them out of your frame and bond the new one in, right, you have to buy your 3.5 loops and pay for the labor. And then you have two optics that aren't in a frame anymore. You have to just use one eye and like pop eye them if you ever want to use them. So if you can swing it, right, I would invest in a third pair. That's what I would do.
Amazing. Have a good night, everyone. You're so welcome, Macy.
Thank you, Macy. Thanks for joining us. Have a good night, Lily. Thank you.
Good night, Lily. Thank you. Good night, Rachel. Thanks. Thank you. You're welcome, Shireen. All right, guys, make sure you scan your code. We're going to be heading out in 5 minutes. Take your quiz, get your CE. You're welcome, Veronica. That's my mentor, y'all. My mentor in the building.
Shout out, Veronica. Thanks, Kristen. Go get them.
Thank you, Kristen. Thanks, Steph. That's my coworker.
Hey.
You're welcome, Diane. Have a good night.
Thanks, Sandra. Take care.
Thank you, Wendy. Have a good night. Devin, do you have a brother that's in here? I see another last name.
Oh, that's my dad.
Oh.
Yeah.
You're
I invite him to all my speaking stuff.
Cool.
Tell me everything I know, you know?
Good support system.
That's how we roll.
Stacy, thanks for coming. Thanks, Valerie. You are so welcome. Have a good night. All right, guys, we're about to close it up. So please be sure you've scanned.
Scan now or forever hold your peace.
Yeah, your CEs will be emailed to you, Rosa.
Thanks for finishing the quiz, Rosa. Good job, Joanna.
You're welcome, Rosa. Have a good night. You're welcome, Heidi. You're welcome, Nancy. Thanks for hanging. All right, guys, get your last minutes in because I think we are about to close it.
15 seconds.
Beautiful. Great. All right, guys.
Okay, buenas noches, everyone.
Have a good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.